Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. The Outdoor Adventure Series celebrates individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Our guest today is Anand Kumar Sankaran. Now, Kumar is a backpacker and wilderness photographer. He also writes a newsletter about hiking and backpacking and equipment reviews. And rumor has it he is also a podcaster. Well, see if we can fit some time in there to hear about that adventure. But Anand, it is a great pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. As you said, it's the magic of social media that you discovered me, and thanks for having me. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, for our listeners, a lot of what we do is so tied back into social media. And I think Anand had seen or one of my postings on Instagram, because I usually share an image and a link to an episode, and he liked and followed the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. I went and was curious, like, who is this guy? And I discovered he is an absolute phenomenal photographer. And as I say, the rest is history. So, Anand, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and I want you're going to some phenomenal places up in the, California, the Northwest, and I'm actually a little envious, by the way. But tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I'm a engineer by training and profession. I am a first generation immigrant to this great country. I immigrated to the US and California in 1999, and I've pretty much lived all my life in California. And it's to my somewhat mild regret that I actually visited Alaska and other national parks before I discovered the Sierra Nevada.
Ah,
The first time I saw Sierra Nevada was in 2004, five, about 5 or 6 years into this country. And then I was just taken aback. This was October, and the Sierra Nevada had just had the first snow. And I could not tell if I was still in Alaska, which I was in July, or I couldn't believe I was in California. That led me, I was driving on Highway 395, and my friend, who's a backpacker and an outdoor adventurist, had mentioned the name of Galen Rowell, the photographer, writer, hiker, climber, adventurer before, but I accidentally walked into his gallery. It used to be called the Mountain Light Gallery in
okay,
Bishop, California.
okay.
And I was absolutely stunned by the pictures. And when I realized 90% of the photos that Galen had presented in that gallery were taken within a 20 to 30 mile radius of where I was.
Ah,
So I'm in Owens Valley, which at 4,500 feet of elevation
mhm.
is the deepest valley in the world, or
Oh,
one of the deepest, because
okay.
you're at 4,500 feet. The Sierra Nevada is at 14,500 if you consider Whitney, or 13 to 14,000 feet. And within a few miles, you have this 10,000 feet difference, this magnificent mountains. And any road you take west from Highway 395, it's magical, right? And I think I started actively photographing the Sierra Nevada then. But then I was not a hiker. I was not a backpacker. And I slowly started hiking. I had health issues that I had to sort. And I started hiking, doing day trips. I had two very close friends who are both scout parents. Both
Mm,
their sons were Eagle Scout. And one of them has been telling me for a decade that I should start backpacking. And eventually the bug bit. Once I started backpacking and then I started experiencing the high Sierra, there was no going back. And since then, pretty much every year, I now spend at least a week or two minimum in the Sierra Nevada, trying to backpack, get into the wilderness. And it so happens that I'm a photographer. I'm one of those few folks whose two primary hobbies kind of coincide. So I do carry my camera gear, hopefully lightweight, along with my trips. And I take photos. And this is where it all started. I started taking photos during COVID. We are all sitting at home. I started sharing the pictures not just to my friends, not just to my Facebook. I started sharing it next door, the neighborhood social network.
Sure.
I was kind of taken aback by the reaction of folks. Now, the city I live in, it's called Pleasanton.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And Pleasanton is right next to Livermore, where there's a massive labs, Lawrence Livermore Labs. It turns out when the Lawrence Livermore Labs were started in the 60s, Pleasanton had the highest percentage of PhDs in the country. Something like 65% of the population were PhDs. That entire set of initial settlers are all aging. And all of them were kind of cooped up inside their home. And they were like, oh my God, I mean, I've not been to the Sierra Nevada in many years. I did the John Muir Trail once in my life, or when they were 12 or 13. And the reaction, the emotional response that they generated was like a huge boost. And I realized, oh my God, this actually makes a difference to people.
Right.
So I got a little bit more serious about presenting my photographs and starting to work with my local community. And that's where it all started.
Okay.
So a little bit of history there.